most people, unless you're looking at a historic or classic home or something, a lot of people want to move in a place that's brand new. Well, the bees, they do like a place that, kind of smells right, looks right. And these workers will go in there and they measure the box. And you're like, I guess they kind of just march it, count, march it, and count. Somehow they know how to do this. And then they'll go back to the swarm ball, and another one, they'll communicate, and the other one will go. And so they're doing this multiple places all at once with multiple bees. But the other thing is that the bees all have to kind of check it out. So it's not like just one decision. They all kind of, there's a group that does this, that figures out, is this the one? And once they do that, they all kind of get back together and they kind of communicate, and then they just take off and they move in. They're done. Kind of a weird process, but it actually happens. I think Cheryl and I at one point driving over that bridge, as you go 190, 14, whatever you want to call it, back into Temple, I think we hit a swarm one time because we just peppered our windshield. Just like, what the heck was that? I knew it was in the spring. But yeah, if the conditions get bad, they'll leave. And I had one of them swarm sometime, didn't know they were going to do it, but did it sometime this early spring. And they did it, I think, because ants got in. And so they were dealing with the ant population, going there after their honey and everything. And they just said, we're done. Sometimes, if just conditions aren't good or right for them, they'll move. If it gets overcrowded and they don't have space, they'll move. There are ways of trying to sort this out. I didn't know they were going to do it, and they did it. But that you want to talk about the thing that could keep beekeepers awake at night is just use the word swarm. They just, it's a natural process. It's also a way that you can catch your own bees. Put out your swarm traps, and if they like it, they move in. But they just take all their, belongings, which really is for bees, it's the honey and not much else, and then they move. So we now have the people of Israel in a very similar situation. They've been wandering, well, I can't really say they're wandering, but we can use the word wandering. They're wandering in the desert, but they're actually following God's telling them where to go. So it's not like they're really wandering, but 40 days in the desert and 40 years in the desert and wandering. Of note, just a weird little footnote, we're going to talk about Caleb. Caleb apparently was a baby when they left Egypt, because Caleb was about 40 when they would get to Canaan. So Canaan has wandered with them for 40 years too. As a baby, he's grown up in the tribe. That makes Moses really old. But there you go. So they are, looking for where we're going to move to, and what is God directing. And then we get to this area that they're looking at, and there are actually two different accounts of what they did, of where they, of how this happened. And I think it's important to read both of them. There's a version that's in Numbers that we get that is kind of written from the side of the people of Israel. This is what happened. This is what we did. And then there's an account in Deuteronomy. And in Deuteronomy, God is kind of saying, this is what you did. Okay? And so I'm going to kind of use both of those, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to start with the one in Deuteronomy, because, like I said, we get to Numbers, we read it, and it may not register what happened from the Deuteronomy point. So the first part. We'll get back to Numbers after I do that. But 13, in Deuteronomy 20, it says, see, the Lord, let me back up. Yeah, I missed a verse. 20, I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is about to give you. Okay, see, the Lord your God has placed the land before you. Go up, take possession, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has spoken to you. Do not fear, be afraid. So God tells them, there it is, I've given it to you, go take it. That's not the version in Numbers. In Numbers, the version says, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, send out for yourself men so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, every one a leader among them. Two different accounts. When you break this down, it's kind of interesting because the word for send, shalak, kind of like sounds like shellac that we, and my pronunciation may not be perfect, but like shellac that you put on something. Shellac, send means, and so it says in this that we end up with that word, but it also he says something else to vayatu eretz means tour the land. But when he says send, it was something that send was the word that they're using in Numbers, not in Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, they're saying go. He's saying go claim it. And so they get to this edge, and what happens? They should just go, right? I mean, they should cross the Jordan and move in, right? But they don't. And so they're like, well, how are we going to do this and whatever? And, they're being human. They're being bees, I guess, whatever. They're like, okay, well, let's send some spies. And so then God says, yeah, it's okay, do that, I guess. But they should have just done what he told them to do. And so he says, so it's basically send out some spies to literally go and tour the land. Why did they do that? Because they're humans, probably. God's not real happy about it. He forgives them. We'll talk about it in Deuteronomy, but they do that. And so they're like, well, how do we get this group, and what are they supposed to do? They're all sitting around, and, I don't know. And so they said, well, let's send them to go check out the land, see what the people are like, and see if there's good things to eat and whatever. What has God promised that the promised land is going to look like when they get there? And he's promised it for 40 years. It's the land flowing with milk and honey. They don't believe him. Oh, and bring us back some stuff. And so they get out and they get the 12. And so he said, you shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, every one a leader among them. Many of those people were not leaders when they were all the way back, in Israel before being taken to Egypt and all that other stuff. So now they've probably got new leaders and a whole bunch of stuff. So you should send a man from each of the tribes, every one a leader among them. Doesn't say he's the leader, but a leader. Somebody I think is important. So it says, so Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord, all of them men who were heads of the sons of Israel. We can get the map soon. And it says these were their names, though. They're going to lay down who the people were. So our Bible's even recording that. And so it breaks them down. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua the son of Zakur. So they give the genealogy of each one of these guys too. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat the son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb the son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Egal the son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Nun. What does Hoshea mean with the H? Salvation. Salvation. It's like where we get Yeshua and, but Hoshea means salvation, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti the son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel the son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph, from the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi the son of Sushi. From the tribe of Dan, Ammiel the son of Gamali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur the son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi the son of Bosi. Get tongue-tied here. From the tribe of Gad, Gul the son of Maki. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. But Moses called Hoshea the son of Nun Joshua, which means God is salvation. So he went from being just salvation to God is salvation. It says, when Moses sent them out to spy out the land of Canaan, he said to them, go up there into the Negev, then go up into the hill country. And so they're down at the south part here, and if you were to look and it's fine. But see, there's at the very bottom it says the Negev. The Negev is literally like a wedge of the lower part of Israel coming back, and it comes all the way down to the Gulf of Aqaba, where that a lot of the, that's kind of where a lot of the stuff is shipped and moved around that area. So Egypt and that whole deal. And so that's a wedge. So they're kind of at the bottom down there, and he's sending them to go. And so their charter, as we like to say, is see what the land is like, and whether people who live in it are strong or weak, whether they are few or many. Wait a minute. If God's given it to you, why do you care who lives there? Why do you care what the problem is? But this is like a military thing. Go, go check them out. How is the land in which they live? Is it good or bad? How are the cities in which they live? Are they like open camps or with fortifications? Are they like us that live in tents, or do they have stone walls? How is the land? Is it fat or lean? Are there trees in it or not? Make an effort then to get some of the fruit of the land. And there's kind of a footnote here. Now was the time of the first ripe grapes. So they knew that could be something that's going. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness Zin as far as Rehoboth at Labo Hamath. And when they had gone up into the Negev, they came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of the Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Okay. So this thing starts talking about how they're going out from the Negev and going up into this. But they throw something interesting at you that is still they historically record and are talking about. It's kind of interesting that they throw that in there, because you're like, what does this really mean? The descendants of Anak. So to get to the descendants of Anak, you've got to go back to Genesis, because we're telling the story, and this is part of the story. Genesis 6. Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves whomever they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he also is flesh. Nevertheless his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was on evil continuously. Okay. Backing up. These are the sons of Anakai, and they're the sons of Anak, or the kind of the thing. So that's where we get those people. But this is one of those things that kind of makes you're reading along, and you kind of, It's like chewing along with something, and all of a sudden you find a piece of bone. So, who were these people? Who were these sons of God? And this one actually, it's capitalized, in Hebrew, it's not really capitalized. So anyway, whatever. But 3 theories of these people. Number one, that there were fallen angels who were interbreeding with the daughters. The other thing that you kind of have to think about, it's one of the things that I think there's enough in the Genesis account to agree with this, is that there are named children of Adam and Eve, but there are some that are probably not named that we don't get. We only get, the basic, Cain, Abel, that kind of stuff, and Seth. But if you think about it, the punishment of Eve was painful childbirth. They never said she didn't have children before that. And so they could have had other people, other, daughters and sons, but those are the main ones in our story, but they could have had more. But the, fallen angels, kind of like Lucifer, the fallen angel that had bred with these daughters. But the other thing is there was something about them that was different. And when I say this, this is even recorded in Egyptian documents, that the descendants of Anak, the Nephilim, they were, according to this is translated from a 13th century Egyptian letter. They were 9 feet tall warriors in Canaan. So they really were something formidable. But the other thing, it said that these could have been the godly men of Seth, which were Seth's descendants with the ungodly women, which God would not like because you've got the rebels women, and then Seth, godly Seth and his descendants and whatever. So there's some debate about this. And Seth is Cain and Abel's younger brother, so we don't see him mentioned a lot, but he's in there. The other one is, and this is where this one is kind of a little far-fetched, but people throw this out, is maybe that they really were kind of trying to say sons of the gods, the little g, not big G, and that these were like royalty of the time of different places, and these were from the harem, so that these kings, rulers, whatever, were polygamous, but they had a harem, and so that's where they got these people. Who knows? I'm just telling you, there's theories. I don't support the third one, but the other two there. But they were big people. They were something that were formidable. So that's why I've got to get you to Genesis, because you're like, why are they afraid of the people of Anak? Okay. So they took, came out of the valley of Eshcol, and from there cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes. And they carried it on a pole between two men with some of the pomegranates and figs. I don't know if any of you grow grapes, but I've never, ever in my life seen a cluster of grapes so big that it takes two men to put it on a pole and carry. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at that going, hey, we got to take this back. You just know that they just stop and look at that going, they'll never believe us. This is just, we got to take this back. Well, how are we going to do that? We're traveling light. I don't care. We got 12 of us. We're going to take turns, but we're carrying that back. So it does support. God had provided a land of milk and honey. I can also say that you can say that there may be vine dressers and people who are good at raising grapes and all this stuff, but to get a bunch that big, God's have to have a big input in that. The biggest plants that we get on the planet, I always, growing up, I'd see these huge pumpkins and everything else. It's like, how the heck do they do that? Where do they come from? Well, actually, they typically come from Alaska, because during the summer they have so much daylight, and so the plants have plenty of daylight all the time, and they use a lot of Miracle-Gro, and they get in contests and everything else. For us, we don't have that much daylight. It's hot, it's dry, whatever. But I'm still saying, just to have a bunch like that of grapes. But they didn't, we always think about the grapes, but they also brought back pomegranates and figs. And say that place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut down from there. When they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days, 40 years, 40 days, they proceeded to come to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. So what do you think you're going to be thinking if you're watching this group come back, but you see that cluster of grapes? I'm in. Let's go. But these guys, no, not so fast, not so fast. Nevertheless, the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. So we go back. He said, thus they told him, and I went to 28, I know, but I'm going back to 27. Thus they told him and said, we went into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is the fruit. Nevertheless, the people of the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large, and moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. Now there's a little problem there, a little bit. The little problem is that with the flood, the people of Anak died, right? Because that was after we were talking here. So they were all descendants of Noah at that point. And Noah wasn't a giant. I remember, whatever, Anak. They're big people, probably. We've got to get to Goliath of Gath. He was a big guy. So they're, we know they're big. 9 feet, I guess if you have to say what's the largest human being that we could probably get to play basketball in the world would be 9 feet, where they're from wherever they are, Just based on biblical accounts. I don't know. But they were, there could be some big people. But that makes me kind of a little suspicious that maybe they were stretching their truth. I don't know. But if you really look at the sequence, those people died in the flood. If you go back to Genesis, like where I was, it says, I stopped, but the Lord said, I will blot out man who I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creepy things and to birds of the sky, for I'm sorry that I have made them. God was mad. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So right after this account of people of Anak, then you get to that. So we know that they should have died, right? Logic, but anyway. So Amalek is living in the land of the Negev, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites are living in the hill country, and the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. So they even go, okay, these are the people that live in there. These are people we've known from way back. They're looking on their historical memory of people that they know, these groups and tribes they've had problems with, and so they're naming who they are, where they are. So they, you can look at the map and they can tell you where the lands of so and so and so and on. But that's what they're doing there. Okay. So we've got Amalek is living in the land of the Negev, desert. The Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites are living in the hill country, and the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. So you kind of look at that, and when they're also talking about these things, there's a little bit of soldier reconnaissance in there too. I'll just say, in my mind, I would think that, because when you think about the people who live in the desert, that's a hostile environment that does most of the fighting for you, right? We look at World War II and Rommel and all this stuff. They get in the desert, and the desert was as big of an enemy as anybody they were trying to fight. So let's go to that, and then we go into the hill country, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites. That means you have to attack uphill. You've got to work into them. They've got the high ground. High ground is always good. I was listening, since it is Memorial Day, I am going to throw a deal out for Memorial Day, but I recently heard from a person who had been to Normandy, not a soldier, not whatever, a tourist. And he said, man, walking up that hill was tough enough. He said, can you imagine running up that hill with bullets raining down on you, carrying ammunition and guns, and trying to take the hills? And so that is truly an incredible, remarkable thing that the soldiers did in World War II of the United States to take those bluffs and hills, because it was uphill. And he said, I'm just walking, and it was not easy. I was winded, and he's not an old guy. So the hill country, there's a strategy there that it's tough. And they've already said the cities are fortified and very large. They're saying big city, lots of people. They're huge. The fortified stuff going up into the hill country. Now the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. They may be kind of saying they might be a little easier. I don't know. But then again, they may be able to get in their boats and get away. Who knows? Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, we should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome it. They had to listen to him, but at the same time, there's gonna be some people in that group saying, yeah, he's a young whippersnapper. He was born on the trail. He came with us. He's not, doesn't remember a lot of our history, whatever. But at the same time, it's a thing of fate. He said, let's do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us. So they gave out to the spies, sons of Israel, a bad report of the land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone in spying it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. There also we saw the Nephilim, son of Anak, and we will become like grasshoppers in their own sight, and we were in their sight. And so then all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. All the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones become plunder. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt. There's whine, whine, whine. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's go back and look at now. And the other thing that's interesting is we kind of, looking at some of my notes too, we have a pretty good idea of when this was done, because we know in that region that grapes come out in about July and August. That's the time of year. So we even know the time of year that they would be doing this. The other thing, I keep using this word Negev, that's the south. Negev means south. It's the South Desert, literally. So I thought, what does Negev mean? Why is that it just means south. Nothing big about that either. But in Deuteronomy, we go to 20, and like I said, this is after Numbers, after they've been there. This is God talking, and this is God talking looking back. I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, what the Lord our God is about to give you. See, the Lord your God has placed the land before you. Go up, take possession, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has spoken to you. Do not fear or be dismayed. What drove the people to send scouts in the first place? Fear of the unknown. What is preventing them from going in to that land? I was kind of laughing yesterday at work because the young residents, they have music going, and the good thing about them is they play everything. We get all kinds of stuff. But there was one of the popular song about monsters. One of the words in the song is monsters. And I said, you left another good one out. And they're like, what are you talking about? I just love the song from Carlos Santana plays, plays music in and everything else. It's called "Put Your Light On," and it hey now all you sinners, and he goes through all these verses. Hey now all you mothers. Hey now all you children. Hey now all the whatever. Put your lights on. Put your lights on. And then he goes into, because there's a monster. There's a monster under my bed, whispering into my ear. And it's just kind of, it's one of those things that's a little chilling, just the words and the whole thing. But it's a beautiful song. The instrumentation of that is incredible. And so I'm sitting here going, yeah, there's monsters in Canaan. We can't go to Canaan. They got monsters. It's kind of like that whole thing with Monsters, Inc. So they're making fun of how that we make monsters as adults, and the children don't look at them as monsters. Fear is one of those things that is here. It's not always here, it's here. We create it. So I think God is kind of getting them a little bit. Do not fear or be dismayed. Then all of you approached me and said, let us, Shalak, send men before us, that they may search out the land for us, and bring to us word of the way by which we should go up in the cities which we shall enter. They're making a battle plan. They're getting ready. That's what their deal is. The thing pleased me. See, God's kind of saying, okay, if that's what you want to do, I have no problems with it. Go ahead. And I took 12 of your men, one for each tribe. They turned and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. Then they took some of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us. And they brought us back a report and said, it is a good land which the Lord our God is about to give you. You don't have to take it. It's theirs. It's for you. Yet you were not willing to go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. God said, go do it. What did they do? And you grumbled in your tents and said, because the Lord hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of Amorites to destroy us. Whine, whine, whine. Where can we go up? Our brethren have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are bigger and taller than we. The cities are large and fortified to heaven. And besides, we saw the sons of Anakim there. Then I said to you, do not be shocked, do not fear them. the Lord your God who goes before you. When he says that, think about what has happened. He has gone before them for 40 years, every day, pillar of smoke by day, pillar of cloud by night. The Lord your God who goes before you will himself fight on your behalf, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness, where you saw how the Lord and your God carried you, just as a man carries his son, in all the way which you have walked until you came to this place. But for all this you did not trust the Lord your God, who goes before you on your way to seek out a place for you to encamp, in fire by night and cloud by day, to show you the way in which you should go. Then the Lord heard the sounds of your words, and he was angry and took an oath, saying, not one of these men, these evil generations, shall see the good land when I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He shall see it, and to him and to his sons I will give the land on which he has set foot, because he has followed the Lord fully. The Lord was angry with me also in your account, saying, not even you shall enter there. Joshua, the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter there. Encourage him, for he will cause Israel to inherit it. Moreover, your little ones you said would become a prey, and your sons who this day have no knowledge of good or evil shall enter there, and I'll give it to them, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn around and set out for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Then you said to me, we have sinned against the Lord. We have indeed go up and fight just as the Lord our God commanded us. We'll go do it, basically, now. And every man of you girded on his weapons of war and regarded it as easy to go up into the hill country. And the Lord said to me, say to them, do not go up nor fight, for I am among you. Otherwise you will be defeated before your enemies. He's telling them, you try to do this, you fail. I do it, you succeed. But they're going to okay, we'll do it. Let's get, it's not like, let's go. He said go, let's go. We don't need anything. Oh, no, we got to get our weapons. We got to get ready because, this is going to be. The Amorites who lived in that hill country came out against you and chased you as bees do. I like that. And crushed you from Seir to Hormah. Then you returned and wept before the Lord, but the Lord did not listen to your voice nor give ear to you. So you remained in Kadesh many days, the days that you spent there. I'm going to stop with that because he told them what to do. They wanted spies. He let them have it. They did all these things. But I said, back as bees do. I'm going to finish the moving part with you because when bees are in a swarm, it is a magical time. There's no honey to get, and they don't have a home. They're in some tree or bush. Now, I'm not going to do this, but I know I could. You can go up to that tree ball of bees that have their queen in the middle. They have no home and nothing to protect. You can go up with your hands and you can pick them up and you can put them in a box, and now you have a swarm. Because they don't have anything to defend. They don't have a home. They've got a queen, but even then, you start doing this and, you're not going to, unless you start crushing bees or something else. Sounds crazy, but that's a swarm. And so any beekeeper worth their salt is going to have a box. Because if somebody says there's a swarm, they're going to go get it. There's a great video where this guy is they're on this tree branch above this truck, and he wants the hive. So he puts tarp down, and he starts trying to get them, knowing that a lot of them are going to fall out. But if you get that queen and put her in a box, they just start moving right in. They just start following her scent, and they move in. But it's one of those times with bees that is incredible. You won't get stung. That's how these guys do these bees. It is. It's one of their weaknesses times. I told you, would I do that? I probably still wouldn't. I'd probably still wear something on my head, But it's a magical time that because they don't have a home, their queen is whatever with them, they don't have a thing to defend. Now, let's move that. They move in, and you mess with that box, you could be in big trouble real fast. Or you mess with the tree they live in or whatever. And in fact, they have kind of a zone, and that's how you can kind of tell how good the hives are as a beekeeper, of how close you can get before they would start getting upset. Like if you're bees right now, I'm okay. I'm within that zone right now. They're probably not gonna bother me. I start moving in on Micah, he might sting me. But if I stay back here, they have this zone. Now, I'm also going to tell you, what do you do if you do get attacked by bees? Step one, cover your nose and mouth, because that's the bad thing for them to get you. And then get away from where you are. Leave, because they're protecting that zone. So the farther you get away, it's almost like an exponential drop in the number of bees that were there with you. Now, I'm not saying that you won't get rid of all of them. And when I say that, I've had my full bee suit on, worked with them, had pissed off hives, whatever. I've taken them probably at least, quarter mile and still have a few following. You might have that. There's other things you can do, though. Never go to water. Never get in there. That's foolish. You think it's going to help you, but the problem is you can only hold your breath for a couple of minutes. And what happens when you come up? They're waiting. They're still there. And all of a sudden you pop your head out and they're like, boom. And so you're doing this because you're trying to keep them out of your airway. The water's not a good thing. Shade is. For some reason, I've been able to walk into like my barn, and the ones that are kind of hanging around, the forager bees that are mad and trying to get me, they leave. Or just sit still. Get away from them and sit still and they'll leave you. But if you're not wearing stuff, those are probably going to still bite you too. And you're going to smell. The other thing is, once they bite you, they lose their guts when they do that. They smell that, and that's what provokes them to attack. So if you've got that on you, they're going for that too. But the main thing is cover your mouth and your nose and run. Get away. Just leave. If you'll do that, the numbers start dropping considerably. If you're on equipment, if you're like mowing the grass or something, don't kill the mower, unless it's moving or whatever. If you're on a bulldozer or skid steer, whatever, leave it in gear and run. Because the vibration, they'll go after that more than they'll go after you. And so the noise, the vibration, they think that's what's pissing them off, and that's what they're going for. So those are the ways, that's how you take care of it if you do get attacked by the bees. But I'll tell you, it is really weird that that's that one special time when they're moving. And remember, I started this story of have you ever moved? When they're moving, not a big deal. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you, I'd still wear a veil. But I just can't wait. I mean, you find a swarm, I'm all in. The problem is it doesn't last very long. Sometimes they, it may be, you don't know how many of their foragers have already gone out checking for new homes. So they may have already found a place. So you may go get a box and come back and they're gone. But then again, you might get them too. Any? Yeah. There's a verse for that. Obedience is more important than sacrifice. Yeah. That's a pivotal verse. And they just weren't obedient. So, they sent spies. They did all this other stuff. The spies came back, scared the bejesus out of them, and then they failed. Yeah. But like I said, going back to just what their reports of food, I'm all in. Oh, we might have to fight for this. We might. But they should have looked back and said, but God said, God will fight. I don't have to worry about this. But we're human. We get afraid. God tells you to do something, you get afraid. You sit there and you make a list of all the things that could go wrong, all the reasons why not to do it, as opposed to just doing it. Obedience is more important than sacrifice. They thought they had to sacrifice for the land. We thought we're going to lose troops and people are going to have to fight for us. So, thanks, guys. You want to close this prayer, Michael?